Secret is the operative word, not hopes. The hoping is real enough, and its content is specific enough that the word is accurate rather than metaphorical. But the secret quality of the hoping is what makes this piece necessary, because the hope is not communicated, is not expressed, is not available to the person it is directed toward in any form that would allow them to act on it with the knowledge that they are acting on it. The hope lives in the interior, where unexpressed things live, carried privately, maintained quietly, entirely inaccessible to the direct communication channel that would allow the avoidant to say, "This is what I hope you will do." The reason the hope is secret is the same reason everything significant in the avoidant's interior is secret. The expressing of it would require the acknowledgement of the investment that produces it. The hope is specific. It is about you, about what you do in response to the rejection, about what your response to the rejection reveals about who you are and what you carry, and whether you are the kind of person the hope has been assessing you as being. And the specificity of the hope is the evidence of the investment. And the evidence of the investment is the thing the self-sufficiency narrative is most specifically designed to prevent from being visible. So the hope is secret. And what the avoidant secretly hopes in the aftermath of the rejection is something that the conventional response to rejection would not produce, something that requires a specific, internally developed, genuinely held quality to produce naturally rather than strategically. The avoidant secretly hopes you will not collapse. This is the core of it, not the hope that you will perform indifference. Performance is visible to the monitoring system and produces the reading of performance rather than the reading of genuine quality. Not the hope that you will immediately, demonstrably move on. That movement, if it is organized around the communication of it to the avoidant, is still organized around the avoidant, and the monitoring system reads the organization. Not the hope that you will do anything in particular in the external behavioral sense. The hope is that you will not collapse in the interior sense. That the rejection, which was real, which carried the genuine quality of the avoidance management system enacting its most significant function, which arrived in your life as the specific, targeted, hitting exactly where the vulnerability, lives impact of being rejected by someone you genuinely cared for, will not reorganize your interior around it, will not install itself as the primary evidence in the case your self-doubt is building against your own worth, will not produce in the specific, private, interior level way that collapsing always happens before it becomes visible, the dissolution of the settled relationship with your own value that the rejection's arrival seemed to call for. The hoping that you will not collapse is not the hoping that you will be unaffected. The avoidant is not hoping for the performance of being unaffected. They are too perceptive for the performance to satisfy whatever the hope is reaching for, and they know the rejection had impact because they know what they did when they rejected you, and they know that what they did was not nothing. The hope is not that you emerge from the rejection as though it did not touch you. The hope is that the rejection touches you without reaching you at the level of your foundations. This distinction, being touched without the foundations being reached, is the specific, rare, enormously significant quality that the avoidance hope is assessing for. And it is assessing for it because the presence of this quality in you would be the evidence of the most important thing the avoidant has been trying to determine about you since the connection formed. Whether you are the person the avoidant has been hoping, underneath all the management and all the distance and all the self-sufficiency performance that you are. The avoidant's deepest, most private, most thoroughly suppressed relational hope is not the hope that they will be left alone. It is the hope that the right person will turn out to be real, that the person who appears to have the specific qualities the avoidant's interior has been reaching for, the groundedness, the genuine self-possession, the interior stability that does not require the avoidance validation to maintain itself, will, when tested by the rejection's impact, demonstrate that those qualities are not the performance of those qualities, that they are constitutionally real, that the person is, at the foundational level, actually the kind of person who can receive a rejection without the rejection reorganizing their interior around it. The rejection is, in this sense, a test, not a deliberate test. The avoidant is not administering the rejection with the conscious intention of assessing your response to it. The rejection is the management system doing what it does when genuine closeness reaches the threshold. But the avoidance interior, in the aftermath of the rejection, is performing the assessment anyway. The unconscious, monitoring system level assessment of what the rejection produced in you and what the production reveals about who you actually are beneath the qualities you have been expressing in the connection's better moments. What does not collapsing look like in practice? Not as a performance, as the genuine, interior expressed, naturally occurring behavior of someone whose foundations were not reached by the rejection. It looks like the continuation of you, not the dramatic, visible, look how fine I am continuation that is organized around the communication of the continuation to the avoidant. The quiet, private, entirely self-directed continuation of someone who was hurt, genuinely in the felt sense of something that mattered not being met in the way it deserved, and who has allowed the hurt to be what it is, without allowing the hurt to become the primary truth about who they are and what they are worth. It looks like the maintaining of the genuine interior. The opinions that were held before the rejection are still held. The interests that were present before the rejection are still engaged. The relationship with one's own life, the specific, daily, this is who I am relationship with the actual content of the interior, continues to be the primary relationship, with the rejection present as a painful event within that life, rather than as the event around which the life is now organized. It looks, in any subsequent encounter with the avoidant, like the specific, composed, entirely genuine quality of someone who received a rejection and is still, recognizably and irreducibly, themselves. Not performing being themselves in the specific way that is only possible when the being is coming from the genuine interior, rather than from the construction of a presentation that communicates the desired quality to the avoidance monitoring system. The hope is secret because acknowledging it would require the avoidant to acknowledge several things simultaneously that the management is working to keep from being simultaneously held. That the rejection matters to the avoidant in the interior sense of genuinely hoping for a particular response from you, which requires the acknowledgement of the investment that produces the caring about your response. That the hope reveals the avoidant's most significant relational wish, the wish to encounter the person who cannot be permanently diminished by the avoidant's own management-driven behavior. That the hoping is, at its root, the hope that you are the person who can receive the avoidant's worst without becoming defined by it, the person who can be rejected and remain at the foundational level themselves, the person whose worth is not contingent on the avoidant's acknowledgement of it, which would mean that the avoidant, for the first time, is in the presence of someone whose continued engagement with the avoidant is a genuine choice rather than a need being met. And genuine choosing, being chosen by someone who is choosing freely rather than staying from the need to stay, is the thing the avoidant's deepest, most suppressed, most thoroughly secret relational hope has always been reaching for. What you should do with this knowledge is not use it, not deploy it in the service of producing the reading in the avoidance monitoring system that would move the dynamic in a particular direction, not perform, not collapsing in the service of the avoidance secretly hoped for response. What you should do with this knowledge is take it as the information it is about what genuine self-possession requires and why it matters, not for the avoidant's benefit, but for yours. Because the quality the avoidant secretly hopes to see in you after the rejection is also the quality that serves you most profoundly in the aftermath of the rejection. The not collapsing is not a gift to the avoidant. It is the gift you give yourself, the evidence demonstrated in the living of it that your worth was never located in the avoidance response to you, that the rejection revealed something about the avoidant's current capacity, not about your value. The avoidant hopes you will not collapse after the rejection. You deserve to not collapse after the rejection, not for them, for the version of yourself that exists beyond the rejection, the version that was always there, that was always whole, that was always beneath the impact of the rejection, entirely worthy of the genuine connection the rejection failed to provide. That version, the one the avoidant's hope was assessing for, the one that the rejection was testing, the one that emerges from the not collapsing more clearly itself than it was before the test, that version does not need the avoidant's secret hope to be confirmed. It needs only to be lived, fully, honestly, from the genuine interior, without the rejection's verdict replacing the only verdict that matters, your own.